Well. Hello, Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Disappointment, shocking, no desire, no hunger, tactics, wrong personnel. Just where to start, it's embarrassing. So, as you've guessed it, we're talking about the 6-1 defeat to Newcastle in the Premier League, a top four rival. And we've completely blown our chances, unless these clubs around us have the worst form going, then top four, over and done with. So, yep, Kieran from Speaking Spurs, talking all things Tottenham, and that's what we're talking about today, that absolute disgrace of a performance. So, we'll talk about a few things. We'll go through the starting lineup, and we'll talk about the tactics and why they were right, but also wrong, because I know a lot of people are moaning about that. We'll go through some player ratings, although it's going to be the lowest scores that I think I've ever given out in a player ratings. A little bit on what Stellini said after the game, and a bit on Hugo Lloris. So let's jump into it. So we actually went for 4 at the back. A lot of people have been asking for it, and even Stellini has been asked in press conferences if he was going to change up the tactics at any point, put his own stamp on things. I mean, people asked for it, we got it, and it's kind of confusing as to why he chose to do it in this game. So we went with the 4 at the back. So Hugo Lloris in goal, Porro and Perisic as left and right backs, with Dyer and Romero making up the 2 in the middle. Then 3 in midfield of Pat Matassar, Oliver Skip and Højbjerg, and then the front 3 of Kulusevski, Son and Kane. So the 4 at the back. The reason why it did not work is because it was the wrong personnel. So I myself am one of the people that have been calling for us to play 4 at the back. And I don't understand why Stellini did it now. It's almost like he was trying to say to the fans, you asked for 4 at the back, I've given it to you, and look what's happened. It's almost like he knew it was going to fail, but still went with it anyway. I get that he was putting the extra man in midfield, which was a sensible thing, because a lot of the time against the better teams, against a lot of teams, we've come up short in the midfield battle, because a lot of teams put an extra man in midfield and overrun us, and it doesn't matter how good your middle 2 are, they're going to get overrun at times by the opposition midfield when it's played centrally. So the 4 at the back made sense in that point because we gained the extra midfielder. However, I think we would have been much better off going with a 4-4-2 instead of like a 4-3-3, because it actually meant that we were then exposed down the wings because everyone was too central, and let's face it, the front 3 are not exactly known for, well, Kulusevski kind of, he puts himself out a bit, but Son is challenge shy, he pulls out of tackles all the time. And Harry Kane is great when he's doing defensive corners, but actually he's not known for his pressing capabilities. So the front 3 were kind of out of the whole game. Now, the reason why I say that the 4 at the back was wrong is because it's the wrong personnel. Porro and Perisic both proved today that they are not fullbacks. They are wingbacks. And as I've said before, if you look at both of their stats in their careers over the recent years, you'd be forgiven for thinking that they are both wingers, not even wingbacks, wingers. I mean, as I've said before, Perisic is a winger for Croatia, and he has been a out-and-out winger in the past. He's such an attacking player. His defensive capabilities are left wondering, which we saw today. Porro, defensively, I think he's very weak. I've mentioned this before as well. Now, to go 4 at the back, we needed Ben Davies, who has played left-back for the majority of his club career, and Emerson Royale, who is one of our best defenders of the wing-backs that we've got. That is his strength, his defensive capabilities, because he is a natural fullback. So without them, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. You can't have 2 attack-minded wing-backs and play them as a left and right back. Positionally, they are going to be all over the place, and that's exactly what they were. And it did not work. Stellini basically committed suicide in this game the second that went there. A lot of people going, finally, we got 4 at the back, finally. And I was sitting there. The second I saw the lineup, I was like, we are in trouble. And that's exactly what we were. To concede 5 goals in 20 minutes is an absolute disgrace. minute 1, minute 5, minute 9, minute 18, minute 20, to be 5-0 down. I mean, even to be 3-0 down in the first 20 minutes is an absolute disgrace for a team pushing for top 4 that have had a lot of success over a decent amount of seasons now. We're talking about a club that has been in the Champions League more than it hasn't in the last 6-7 years, and always being in European competition for a longer period of time. Europa League, we've had Europa Conference League, but still we are meant to be one of the best teams in the Premier League, and to capitulate that early in a game, I mean, it was woeful. The defending was absolutely shocking. To me it looked like not even just the defending, it just looked like we were second to every ball. They looked fitter than us, they looked hungrier than us, and then when we did get the ball, surprise, surprise, we couldn't string any passes together. It just played right into the hands. And what was even more shocking, I know 20 minutes is not a long period of time, but it took until the 5th goal for Stellini to change things. On 23 minutes, he decided to bring on Davinson Sanchez, which a lot of people were not happy about. I saw it on social media, people going, oh, we're 5-0 down and now you bring on Sanchez. And we will talk a bit about him in a while, but it took until then. And then half-time comes, and God knows what happened in that dressing room. The official word that the club have put out is that Hugo Lloris picked up an injury. Hugo in his interview, said that he picked up an injury. However, I watched his interview and it was not overly convincing when he was talking about the injury. He hesitated, he paused too long, and for anyone that knows a bit about body language, that was worrying that he paused so much. I think it was an absolute load of crap. I don't think there was any injury. There were reports that came out that there was an altercation in the dressing room between Hugo Lloris, other players and coaching staff, including Stellini. And then he was replaced. So Fraser Forster came out for the second half. I mean, ultimately, Hugo Lloris, yes, has been a great servant to the club, but Fraser Forster didn't really do anything wrong the whole time he came in to cover for him. So, there was an argument that Fraser Forster could have continued to hold his place till the end of the season. Although had it gone wrong, I think a lot of people would have turned around and said, why didn't you put Lloris back in goal? So it was a bit of a catch-22 for the club. But Hugo Lloris, we know that he can have outbursts and arguments with people. We saw it in the All or Nothing Tottenham documentary when Mourinho was in charge. We saw it between him and Heung-min Son. It happened on the pitch during the game. It spilled into the tunnel, spilled into the dressing room. So we know he can be hot-headed on his day. But that's because he just demands from players to actually do the tracking back and defending. And I think after going 5-0 down in the first half, I think he's entitled to have a pop. So yeah, he then didn't come out. And then weirdly, we didn't make any more substitutions until the 72nd minute when we saw Danjuma come on for Kulusevski, who once again was just missing in any creative sense. And then the next substitution, we waited until the 83rd minute. So if we have a look at the rest of the bench, you can kind of understand a little bit because the squad is thin. If you actually look at the substitute benches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we named a full bench, but it's not a great bench. So apart from the players that came on, Tanganga, Davies, Longley, Alfie Devine and Mundle were on the bench. And of those players on the bench, Devine and Mundle, still young. Tanganga played barely any minutes, and on top of that is a centre-back who's been very erratic when given the playing time this season. And the other two on the bench, Ben Davies and Clement Longley, both coming back from injuries. So Longley only trained with the team properly yesterday. Ben Davies very much, I don't even really think he should have been named on the bench. I don't think he was fit enough at all. But we're talking about those kind of numbers. So injuries are still very much happening within the club. And then you look at Newcastle's bench, Dubravka, Lascelles, Gordon, Wilson, Ritchie, Target, Manquillo, Almiron, Anderson. I mean, they've got a full bench worth of players there, and a lot of them have played their part this season. Wilson scored his share of goals. Anthony Gordon, their big signing in January from Everton. Almiron has been in great form in the early part and mid part of the season. these are players that can all make a difference. So, for us, I just don't understand why we didn't make more substitutions earlier to try and affect the game. So despite the awfulness of conceding the 5 in the first half, we did come out, we did score a goal in the 49th minute. We actually started the second half quite well, to the point where Trippier, you would have seen him having a go at his fellow players for losing their concentration. And you can kind of forgive it a bit because they put a lot into the first half. They got themselves in a position where they shouldn't lose from. But however, there was that bit of worry there. We did start to build, but ultimately they could then put men behind the ball, defend the game out, and we weren't going to do it. And we haven't actually been at the races in a creative sense anyway, for a lot of the games this season. Shocking, absolutely shocking. Right, so let's talk about the actual players themselves. We'll do the player ratings now, why not? So, Hugo Lloris in goal. Saved Joelinton's early shot, only for Murphy to then slam home the rebound as he struggled to get up and react, which for him is not usual. Normally he's very quick to react. He was rounded easily by Joelinton soon after. Couldn't really do much about Murphy's rocket from distance moments later, which flew inside the left-hand post. Both of Isak's shots, though, seem to have gone underneath him. And then, he didn't emerge for the second half with the club saying he was injured and tweaked something during the first 45 minutes. Which, if he did tweak something, that might explain his lack of mobility getting towards any of the extra shots. So Hugo Lloris comes away with a whopping 1 out of 10. I will say, though, some of these goals, it was through shocking closing down from other players. Like, Lloris ultimately isn't to blame for some of these goals going in, but could have done better with at least 3 of them, in my opinion. So, right back, Pedro Porro breezed past way too easily by Joelinton in the opening moments. He was nowhere near Wilson for Newcastle's 6th. He doesn't look like a natural fullback whatsoever. Tried to get balls into the box at the other end, hit one shot into the side netting, but ultimately, once again, he was weak. I thought he just gets knocked off the ball way too easy, doesn't pressure his men enough defensively. He comes away with a 2. Christian Romero, one of the centre-backs. As with Porro, he just let Joelinton breeze past him within the first minute and then let the ball drop behind to the same player to score a couple of moments later. He was all over the place for much of the match, especially looked really lost in a back 4. So, for him, it's not been a season to remember at club level, has been on the world stage. And I think they were saying since the World Cup, he's picked up 2 red cards and 12 bookings or something like that in nearly as many games. So, discipline disgraceful. So he also comes away with a 1, joining Hugo Lloris. His centre-back partner, Eric Dyer, the man that they're looking to give another 3-year contract, also comes away with a 1. Poor pass to Sonny that was cut out for Murphy to score Newcastle's 3rd. He was out of position with Romero for the 4th goal and again for the 5th. We needed an experienced head in that back 4 and he is not it. He brought no calm at all to the defence, which is very strange considering, Eric Dyer, if you take it back a few years ago, he had great leadership qualities. I think he marshals the defence really well in a back 3, but in that back 2 he looks so lost. We'd have been much better off actually putting him into midfield and having Davinson Sanchez at the back. So a 1 for him. Then the left back, Ivan Perisic, playing completely out of position as a fullback, completely lost Murphy for the first goal. Caught well up the pitch for their 5th goal. He fired an effort over at the start of the second half, but wasn't able to get forward much until late in the game. So he gets a 2. Moving into midfield, Højbjerg, who scored a 3. Another experienced head on the pitch, but showed no leadership at all. He provided the pass for Kane's goal, but Kane did much of the work anyway. He was better in the second half, but only because Newcastle went down the gears. That's the only thing that made him look better. Pat Matasar, game to forget for him, and he only lasted 23 minutes. He was thrown back into the team before He was, sacrificed on the 23rd minute. He at least had the excuse of lacking in sharpness, unlike many of the others. So he comes away with a 2. And he did look shaky at times. But didn't look very confident on the ball like we've seen earlier in the season. But yeah, lack of minutes clearly affecting him. Ollie Skip, one of the few launching into challenges, as he always does. He earned himself a yellow card. He set up Kane for a good chance in the first half, but like everyone else, he was off the pace in the first 20 minutes. So he comes away with a 3. Moving on to the front 3. Dejan Kulusevski. He is having a season 2 forget. Injuries, loss of confidence, lack of conviction in front of goal. His assist rate has slowed down. Just doesn't look the same player. He's completely lost his confidence. He comes away with a 2. And do you know what? I was really annoyed when I saw the lineup that Sonny and Kulusevski both made the starting lineup. And Danjuma, after scoring a goal, probably the only man in the squad with any kind of confidence, and he was dropped to the bench. I thought for sure this was a game where you would have started Danjuma. The guy's got nothing to lose. 2 for Kulusevski. Then moving on to the other side, Sonny. He lost the ball for Newcastle's 3rd, but it was a poor pass from Dyer that actually put him into the trouble initially. Kept running when others had stopped. Had a few half chances, but no joy really. So he actually comes away with a 4, one of the highest scorers. Then in the middle, Harry Kane. Curled a shot just wide in the first half, but he did score after the break. A good bit of work on his own, really. Low shot into the right-hand post. Could argue that Pope could have done better, but still, it was a good finish. Deserves so much better than the players that were around him. So I'm going to give him a 5 because he still didn't do enough defensively. He didn't lead from the front in that sense. Now moving on to the subs. So the first one to come on was Davinson Sanchez on the 23rd minute. He came on after that 5th goal. And he actually, despite the fact that he was given such a hard time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, this was kind of the perfect game for him to start because there weren't as many fans there because we were playing away. Could have given him that belief from the manager saying, you know what, I don't care what happened in the last game. I'm going to stick by it. And I think we'd have got a response. And then when he came on, we got a response. He was by far the best of the defenders. But I mean, that wasn't really saying much. So he comes away with a 5. Fraser Forster on at half-time, replaced Lloris. He couldn't do really anything about Wilson's close-range finish. He also gets a 5. Danjuma, he had 1 shot at goal after replacing Kulusevski. He gets a 5. And then Richarlison was brought on for the final 12 minutes for Son, but added little himself. And you can't really blame him. Once again, you know, a signing that cost so much money, being given such little minutes again, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I know fans have been at him all season, but you don't get the minutes, you can't perform at the highest level. And I think it's very unfair. And this is why it was unfair on Davinson Sanchez in the games where he's come on. Anytime Sanchez has had a prolonged run in the team, he's done okay. He really has. He's done okay. And I think a lot of fans, they just get annoyed at players when they come on from the bench and don't perform. And I think it's wrong. They're not playing regularly enough. They're not sharp. I keep saying this in videos time and time again. There is a difference between being fit and being match sharp. So yeah, Richarlison comes away with a 4. Was there anyone else to bring on? No, there wasn't. Not that was going to make a difference in this game. So now moving on to the man that made the decisions. Cristian Stellini. God. So, he was asked several questions. How do you explain a performance like that? He said, there's no words to explain a performance like this. The first 25 minutes were the worst I have ever seen. I hope that the system we changed to give us energy was the wrong decision. If it was that, it's my responsibility. We played with 4 at the back, and if this is a mistake, it's my mistake. Well, I can tell you right now, Stellini, it is your mistake, but it is also the players' mistake because the way they performed was ridiculous. Whether you've got 4 at the back or not, there is no reason we should have been beat the way we were. There was no hunger, no desire. So it's kind of a 50-50 blame. And as I've said, had it have been Emerson Royale and Davies as left back and right back, I think we see a different performance. I really do. He was then asked, does this prove why Antonio Conte played 5 at the back before? He said, we never know until we try to do it. We have to analyse the situation now. Oh, sorry, yeah. Yeah, we have to analyse the situation now. It's too early. If we're in a rush to explain and analyse everything, it's really early. We have to analyse all together because we need to take a breath after a performance like this. We have an important game Thursday and we have to show something different. And then he was asked a really weird question. Is this the lowest point in your career? Now, the reason that's a stupid question is because he was caught up in the whole match-fixing scandal thing that took place in the Italian league years ago. So, no, not the lowest point of his career. But he said, my career? I was an assistant. Until 4 games ago. It was a bad performance, of course. In 21 minutes, we conceded 4 shots and 4 goals. Although he's definitely got that wrong because we conceded 5. So worse than this is very difficult to see. But there are reasons. We have to find the reasons why. If it's the system, it's easier to change. We change the system again and we have the result. If it's not the system, we have to analyse why. And I can tell you, it's not just the system, it's the players. He said, it looked like Daniel Levy went into the dressing room after the game. Did he speak to you and the players afterwards? He said, I didn't see him. Now, he may or may not. Daniel Levy's a very private guy anyway. There's a possibility he went into the dressing room, clearly not being leaked to the press if that was the case. Then, what happened to Hugo Lloris? He said he got injured. He had a muscle problem. He could not continue the game and we needed to change him. I don't believe it. What did you say to the players at half-time? That we have to play the second half to save the face of the team, to find a bit of confidence if it's possible, to prepare for the next game. So that was important, and not to go rushing to create problems and finish maybe with a red card. Don't go rash into play and find the confidence we need to play the next game. How do your response to this? Will you look to change the team? How do you respond to this? I was meant to say, will you look to change the team as a response or stick by them? He said, we don't have many players. Today we had on the bench Ben Davies and Clement Longley, but we used them only for 15-20 minutes, taking a risk. I didn't want to take a risk with them because obviously the game after 30 minutes was gone. It is strange that after 1 year, last season we gave them 5-1 and now they gave it us back. This is strange because we have to analyse this season. It's very tough for everyone, but we have to find energy with all the possibilities we have. We don't have a lot of time to do this. We have to be responsible, everyone. We have to take breath tonight and tomorrow we have to start. Are you concerned about your own position after a performance like that? He said, this is a question. I have no answer for this because it is not a question for me. Did you train with the players in a back 4 this week? He said, we trained, yes. Were you surprised with how badly it went? He said, yes, I was surprised. Very short answers. For Stellini, this is different. Usually he gives a lot more, and the press usually like talking to Stellini. Was there another problem apart from the formation then? He said there are problems. The other problems are many problems because I repeat, this season is not a normal season and maybe many things happened. And so there is not only one thing to take care of. If you want to analyse all the season to arrive here in a match like this, that you have to play an important match to reach your target, that is top 4. And you start like this, is a surprise for everyone. I hope that the system was the problem. He repeated this a few times. He's trying to say, I think he knows deep down it wasn't just the system. He knows it's the players, which Antonio Conte mentioned many times, saying that, the players aren't great at handling pressure. And once again, it proved it. Do you want to stay in charge for the rest of the season? Yes. With Conte's comments after Southampton about the club's history and the players, was he right? He then said, today, what I can say is we have to apologise to everyone, and I hope today is my responsibility because changing system was my decision. Like I said, I hope this was the problem. Can you still finish top 4? Yes. What an interview. The shortest interview I have ever well, not shortest interview, sorry, shortest answers I have witnessed from Christian Stellini. Clearly was not happy. I'll see if I can get up what Hugo Lloris said after the game, because honestly, it was not great the way he was talking. Like, if anyone saw it, interview. Yeah, there we go. I found it. He just looked very, very dejected whilst doing his interview. Let me see. I'm on the page now. Has it got the transcript? Yes. So after the game, he spoke very candidly. Couldn't hide his disappointment facially, like he kept looking down. He's normally somebody that's actually quite interesting to see in an interview. He speaks really well. He's intelligent in the way he talks. Okay, so he said, it's very embarrassing. We should apologise to the fans. We didn't show a good face and we could not match the performance of the Newcastle players. We were late in all aspects of the game and we completely missed the first part of the game. The second half is a different story, but it's really painful. It's not even about tactics. We just could not fight and we were late. I think Newcastle just had a great performance. They were very aggressive and offensive everywhere they had the ball. It is difficult right now to assess the performances, but there was a lack of pride. You can get punched once or twice, but it was like we could not even react or bounce back. Newcastle deserve a lot of credit for starting the game at 100 miles per hour. They knew exactly what to do. We can try to find excuses and analyse the performances. So this is when he was asked about the tactics. So he was asked questions in between. And this one was about the tactics of going to a back four. So he said, we can try to find excuses to analyse the performances, but the first thing is we miss the fight. In football, if you go on the pitch without the desire to show aggressiveness, make things very hard. It was a bit of a mess on the field. We cannot hide ourselves behind the club's problems. So he was asked if all the stuff that's been going on, the fact that Antonio Conte's been sacked, Paratici's resigned. So he said, yeah, it's a bit of a mess on the field. We cannot hide ourselves behind the club's problems. We are professionals. But today there was too much lacked. There was a difference in levels between Newcastle and Tottenham. We have two very difficult games to bounce back with in midweek. So we've got Manchester United and Liverpool as our next two games. So he was asked about the injury, supposedly. He said, my injury does not sound good, he added. I don't know if it's a muscle, but around the hip when I kicked, it doesn't sound good. So what he actually said was the injury came about when he said, a long kick. When he kicked the ball long, he felt some pain. I just didn't believe him. It just took a while to answer. So I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. And I'm wondering if he's saying about the injury and it doesn't sound good. I'm wondering if he's saying that because whatever happened in the dressing room now means that there's going to be an absence from the team. Maybe he said something too far. Maybe there was a bigger altercation than we think. I'm sure more will come out as time goes on, but whether it is an injury or not, we're probably not going to completely find out whether it was. In a way, I hope it wasn't an injury and that he did say some stuff, did say some home truths, because that performance out there from the players was absolutely shocking and it was almost laughable watching these goals go in, the capitulation, the the fact that we didn't change the system. After that first minute, 5th minute, 9th minute, it happened so quickly. I suppose it's hard to change the system that quick. Like, how do you... you've got to make tough decisions as a manager, but how do you, after the second goal goes in, just go, do you know what? Clearly something's wrong. Bang, Pat Matasar, you're coming off. Davinson, you're coming on, and we're going straight back to a 5. That's what should have happened. Really is what should have happened. But at the same time, how do you haul a player off after, 8 8-9 minutes and say, look, I'm really sorry, but you're not going to play because I got the formation wrong. It's a really difficult one for Stellini to have to deal with on the pitch in such a short space of time, but ultimately it was just wrong. Everything about it was wrong. I'm absolutely furious at the players for their part in that match. It was shocking, you know. I don't know. I really don't know where we go from here. The problem is, like, what manager is going to want to come in now? What manager in their right mind is going to want to come into this club and sort out the mess? You know, worst of all, we might see Pochettino being the manager of Chelsea. Julian Nagelsmann apparently is now back in the running to be Spurs manager, but I don't even know if that's going to happen, because ultimately the news that we're getting from the Tottenham hierarchy is that they want a manager that would like Spurs to be their first choice. What manager in their right mind is going to want Spurs as their first choice? The club is an absolute mess. We've got no sporting director. We're sacking managers willy-nilly at the moment. They're not being backed 100% in the way they want. The players can't handle a little bit of criticism, can't handle any pressure. Harry Kane's contract is a massive talking point. We've got no one to renegotiate it. Why is he going to want to stay? We probably won't have Champions League football, maybe even Europa League football next season. So what kind of players are you going to bring in? Any manager that is going to want us to be their first choice is going to have to be something like Arne Slot, who obviously has a great team. Yeah, they got knocked out the Champions League this week, but Europa League, sorry. AZ Alkmaar, Feyenoord. Do you know what? I'm getting myself confused now. Europa League, they got knocked out, but having an incredible season apart from that. And I just think like a manager like that is probably someone that we're going to have to go for, or it's going to have to be somebody in the Portuguese league, something like that. Like any top manager right now at one of the bigger clubs, or somebody that's been managing at bigger clubs, is not going to want to come to us as their first choice. So I don't know. It's really hard to talk, to be honest. Like I would have spoken earlier, but I've been at work, luckily, so I've actually had a bit of time to calm down, because if I'd have done this talk straight after the game, there'd have been all sorts of words coming out. I'd have been effing and blinding, and, it just wouldn't have gone down well. It'd have been more like an expressions oozing expressions, whatever his name is. It'd have been like his kind of video, where I'd have been going absolutely mad. And I don't know if anyone noticed the commentary team, but Danny Rose was there. Did anyone see that stupid hat that he was wearing? Ugh, just annoyed me. That hat was awful. Jamie Redknapp was obviously there as well. And Jamie Redknapp was saying, Danny Rose, he was challenged on his praise for Stellini's tactical adjustments, and he said, Jamie told me you have the right personnel to play a back four, so I was wrong here. Danny Rose. Yeah. Danny Rose. He actually went on to suggest that despite the fact that he was unattached after leaving Watford last year, he would have been good enough to shore up his former club's wayward backline. And you know what? He probably would have, the 32-year-old. He said, there's been so many mistakes, and all I've been thinking all first half is, how am I unemployed? To be 5-0 down after 20 minutes is unheard of for a club that are supposedly a massive club. And he's probably right. At 32 years old, I mean, he did actually spend most of his time at Spurs as a natural left back. So yeah, he probably would have done a better job. If he'd have been signed up there and then thrown on, I have no doubt that Danny Rose would have done a better job than even Perisic at left back. And you know what? The guy's a free transfer and he's homegrown. The guy that came through the ranks at Leeds before joining Tottenham as a teenager. 10 goals in 214 appearances. The famous volley against local rivals Arsenal. He's actually been without a club completely this season. It's just terrible. What a situation we're in. I can only imagine what's going to happen against Manchester United, who obviously are going to be buzzing because they've got themselves through to the final after beating Brighton on penalties today. So they get a Manchester derby for the final of the cup, which, for the neutral, that's going to be a great game to watch. But they're going to be buzzing after that. So, disappointing result for them in the Europa League, saw them knocked out, so the treble is no longer on for them. But going through to the final in the cup, that was the perfect response. Even though they didn't do it all on the pitch on the day, they've won on penalties. They're all going to have good feelings. So that's probably their bounce back, ready for the game against us. That's going to be really difficult. And then, Liverpool as well. Palace, they're no mugs, especially at the moment. We could end up not having any European football at all next season, which in a way I would prefer because we can focus just on the league. And clubs traditionally that have been in the top four that drop out of European football either early in the season or they don't have it, tend to have a much better season the following because you haven't got as many games to run the risk of injury. Therefore, your starting players then start more games and you can rotate more sensibly as and when you need to. So we will see. The club have got a lot of work to do now. We need a director of football in ASAP. We need a new manager. I mean, the ladies team need a new manager as well. They got rid of their manager before the men's team did. But a lot of people are saying the same thing. It is crazy that Spurs got rid of their manager and left his number 2 to take over. Somebody that's been under him the whole season, been under him at pretty much every job, played the exact same tactics. He tried to change it up today. It all went completely wrong personnel. But, these players need to take a hard look at themselves. And to make things even worse, somebody that I loved, I know he splits hairs between Spurs fans, Eric Lamela. If that guy could have stayed fit, we'd have had a real hard-working player all the time. There's a reason why every pre-season he was our best player, because he was fit at the time and he always put the effort in, and he was always our best pre-season until he got his injuries. And I mean, even now, he's going to be in a cup final alongside on loan Spurs player Brian Hill. So both of them could have trophies. The curse continues. Players don't win trophies at Spurs. They move on. They get trophies. So them two there, Ndombele is going to be champion of Serie A. Giovanni Lo Celso, when he was on loan, won the Europa League. If he'd have been fit in the summer, if he'd have been fit in the winter for the World Cup, he would have been a World Cup winner because, believe me, big part of Argentina's squad that got to the World Cup. But that's just embarrassing, isn't it? Everyone that leaves Spurs wins a blinking trophy. But look, depressing. I can't talk about Spurs anymore. It's just completely ruined my day. I'd say I'd hope you enjoyed that video, but of course you didn't. We're like nearly 40 minutes in now. I wanted to rant so much more, but I have not got the energy to rant about Spurs. My voice is going. I'm tired. It's like 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. I got work in the morning. Just absolutely sick to the backbones of Spurs right now. I don't even know what I want. Do I want us with no European football for next season? Who do I want as manager anymore? I really don't know. I just want to find out more about this Hugo Lloris situation, if I'm honest. So I'm going to do some digging, see what I can find, and then come back to you as soon as I know more. But thanks for sticking around for that one, those of you that did. Leave your comments below about tactics and who should have played, who shouldn't, and yada, yada, yada. Where do we go from here? Do we just get rid of Stellini now and let Ryan Mason take charge for the remaining games? I mean, we might as well just bin off Stellini, let Ryan Mason take charge, see what happens. It'll be good experience for him just to be the number one again. Might be able to get something out of him because he might actually play a different system, but for the right reasons. I don't know. That's all you're going to get for tonight. So yeah, I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment, and until next time, come on you Spurs.